those are some nuances about hierarchies. All right, I'm going to go back to what I was going to say then about the null key for this. So what is the problem with nulls in our table here if we have a null key? So let's say if you look at this particular example of a sales fact key. So on day 2991, we sold product 201. We sold 10 of it, but we did not record who the sales rep was for that. For some reason, that data was missing. Maybe it was at a store and there was a self-checkout, or I don't know. But what actually happens when we have a fact table that doesn't have anything in sales rep? Think about slicing and dicing. Jake?
So it doesn't necessarily, like, it couldn't have been sold by, it should have been sold by somebody. Like, it can't.
Well, you're saying it's erroneous data, right? Okay. But, and that's all well and good, and we shouldn't have it. You know, we should prevent that. But why does it make our analysis bad then? So what's the next step? You know, so it's bad that we didn't clean our data before we loaded it in, but why does that make our analysis bad in particular? When we think about the processes that we're using. What will happen when we total our sales by sales rep? For Paul, Steve, and Glenn, what are their sales? What's the total quantity? Go ahead.
Somebody would be missing 10 of whatever they're selling. So each only have 10 when one of them should have 20.
Or, well, so we're not giving credit where credit is due. That's possible. So we're mistaking who actually sold how much. Okay. So another thing that can happen if we have a total on that report that says total sales, and our total sales are going to come out to be 30 when in fact they really were 40 because we're making a join. And when we have a join and there's a null there, the record is not going to be included. So that's the fundamental problem, and it is why in the fact table we don't want to have any nulls, period. No nulls whatsoever in the fact table for any of our foreign keys for that. Okay? Yeah, so entire rows will disappear when joined if there's a null key. So the solution is to have a special row in the dimension, and the special row is a row that is unknown or non-applicable or something like that, not available for that. So sales rep key 0 means no sales rep or unknown sales rep. So that means that when we join those two tables together, this 10 magically reappears, but it reappears in a way where we can say, hey, you know what? There's some sales we don't know who sold. And then if that's an important consideration, we can go back, investigate, maybe clean up the data, or put in a new process so that it doesn't happen anymore. We find out what percentage of our sales are unattributed in this case. So do you see how clever that is? That in the data warehouse, we can put in extra rows in the dimensions to reflect certain aspects of the data that you might not have thought were possible in that. How many people would have thought that you could have had a special row like that for the null key? So that is the answer for that. And in fact, once you go that far, then you could say we can have multiple special row types, right? So we could have a row type for products, and most of our entries in the product dimension will be that way, but we could also have one for invalid data and one for unknown data. So we could make a distinction there. So the big beauty of that is when a big set of data comes in that has to be incorporated into the data warehouse, we don't have time to clean it. We have to get most of it, you know, everything loaded that we possibly can because our salespeople are waiting for the latest data. So this automatically gives us a way to load all of the data, even if some of it is not necessarily clean, entirely clean, then we can go back and fix it afterwards for that. And so that basically is one of the primary practical reasons why we're talking about the null and what we need to do about the null. Okay, and I think I can skip